All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a few examples of how to calculate break-even quantity, break-even total revenue, or in a couple of them where we know break-even quantity and we want to find some other information about the firm, okay? And there are varying reasons why you would want to solve for fixed costs given break-even. Usually it has something to do with making future decisions for possible investments in new directions, okay? But if you want to, maybe you can write all these down in your notes and then maybe pause the video and see if you can figure them out on your own. What formula are we going to use? We're going to use that formula that we figured out where break-even quantity is equal to fixed costs divided by price minus average variable cost. Also, we're going to use the formula where we know that total revenue, that break-even total revenue is equal to price times break-even quantity. So with these two formulas, you'll be able to answer for here, for these two, you'll be able to answer for these two, and you'll be able to answer for these two, okay? Why don't you go ahead and do that, and then I'll work through them. All right, so over here, we're given that the price is 100, fixed costs are 10,000, average cost is 45. This is straight up calculating break-even quantity. So we know that break-even quantity is equal to fixed cost, that's 10,000, divided by price, 100, minus average variable cost, 45, okay? And so this is going to be 10,000 divided by 55, and I'm going to grab a calculator for this. All right, so 10,000 divided by 55. Now this is going to give us a decimal. It winds up being 181.881, okay? And so when this happens, quantities typically are not decimal values. There are certain circumstances. For example, if we're putting the word million after here, then that makes sense. But if this is actually the quantity, you know, we remember that we do quantity as a discrete variable. It's only going up by one at a time, so we're not going to do decimals. So we're going to round it to the nearest whole number. So 181.81 is going to be 182. And really what we should say is not nearest, we really should be rounding up, okay? And so our break-even quantity is going to be 182. And now to find break-even total revenue, we just need to multiply the price times the break-even quantity. So price is 100 times 182, and that's going to be 18,200. So this firm has to earn $18,200 before it earns zero economic profit, before it breaks even, before it stops experiencing a loss. Okay. All right, let's try example B here. We're going to use the same formula, but we're going to mix it up a bit. Here we're given the break-even quantity. So break-even quantity is equal to fixed costs. Now this time we don't know fixed costs. We're solving for fixed costs. And in the denominator we have price, 75, minus average variable cost is 30. And so we have 500 equals fixed cost over 75 minus 30, that's 45. Now, to cancel this denominator, we need to multiply by the denominator on both sides. So we're going to multiply by 45 on both sides. On the right side, it's just going to cancel the denominator, and we have fixed costs over here. And then over here, we're just going to do 45 times 500, and that gives us 22,500. And so the fixed costs in this circumstance, if for the break-even quantity to be 500, where the price is 75 and the average variable cost is 30, the fixed cost must be 22,500, okay? And now to find total revenue, again, we're just going to do break-even quantity times the price, so 500 times 75, and that's 37,500. 37,500, okay? Now let's come over to this third example here, and you can see that we're trying to find price, and we're trying to find total revenue, okay? And so we're given break-even quantity. This one is a little more challenging, okay? So we're going to start with 1,200 is our break-even quantity, and then we're going to do fixed costs, 17,000, divided by price, which we don't know, so we're just going to put a P, minus average variable cost, which is 62. Now let me show you what's going to be a problem here, okay? The problem is that to cancel this denominator, we're going to have to multiply by the whole denominator, which unfortunately is a binomial. So it's going to create a distribution situation. I'll tell you what, let me make a little more room here, and we'll work it out maybe right here in the middle, okay, since we've already worked this one out. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it a little larger here. So we've got 1,200 is equal to 17,000 over price minus 62. So what we're going to have to do here is multiply by, in parentheses, price minus 62. That's going to cancel the denominator, okay? We're going to do the same thing over on this side. Price minus 62, okay? Now over here it's easy, it just cancels the denominator, okay? So all we have here is 17,000. Okay, you algebra folks, you know that this is no problem, but if you struggle with algebra, I can see why this would not be a happy circumstance for you. All right, so here we're multiplying a binomial times a value, so we have to distribute the value to both. We have to do 1,200 times p, so that's going to be 1,200 p minus whatever 1,200 times 62 is. So 1,200 times 62, and that's 74,400. I'll try to squeeze that in here. 74,400, okay? Got a couple more steps here, okay? This is a 74,400, okay? We want to get rid of the 74,000, negative 74,400. So we're going to add 74,400 to both sides. Add 74,000, excuse me, I skipped a 4 in there. 400, okay? Over here, this is going to cancel. We're going to carry down 1,200p. We'll only have one more step after this. Is equal to now 17,000 plus 74,400, and that's 91,400. Good. Now, last step, divide by 1,200. Now, there are actually easier ways to do this, but you have to basically already be really good at algebra, okay, to be able to do those. And then cancel. And the people who are already good at algebra, they don't even need to walk through this example with me, okay? So 91,400 divided by 1,200, and the price should be $76. So it's 76.166666, but we're going to do 0.17 because we have to do, we can only go 2 decimal places if it's like pennies or something like that, right? So the price is going to be $76.17. 76.17, and then when we multiply that by the break-even quantity, we'll get the break-even total revenue. So 1,200, the break-even quantity times the price, 76.17, and that gives us 91,404. 91,404 in total revenue. Okay. All right, so there's some examples of calculating break-even total revenue, break-even quantity, and finding some of these other variables.